The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man, and he was in the house of his Egyptian master. Genesis 39, verse 2. Last week I shared with you what had once been shared with me by Ron Hutchcraft, one overarching reason and two character reasons why Joseph was successful. The overarching reason was that the Lord was with him. The two character reasons were that Joseph said yes to responsibility and he said no to temptation. Let me share with you two more character issues. Joseph said no to despair. He had all sorts of reasons to despair. His brothers had thrown him into a pit and then sold him into slavery. Potiphar's wife had framed him and gotten him thrown into prison. And the butler, who told Joseph that he would remember him, promptly forgot about him for 2 years. In spite of all these circumstances, we never read that Joseph gave into despair. I once heard this defining question when it comes to success. What does it take to discourage you? All of us face difficult and discouraging situations, but by God's grace, we're invited to say no to despair. The last trait that was true about Joseph is that he said yes to the sovereignty of God. Joseph could have felt like God had turned his back on him when he was sold into slavery by his brothers and when he was framed by Potiphar's wife or when he was forgotten by the butler. But the scriptures make it clear that through all of those events, he trusted that his life was in the Lord's hands. After his father dies, his brothers tell yet another lie by making up a story that their dad had told them to tell Joseph that he should be kind to them even though their dad was gone. Joseph knew it was a bunch of baloney, and instead he said these powerful words, "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today." His brothers intended evil, but God intended good. There are times when it's not easy to trust that our lives are in the Lord's hands, but by God's grace, we're invited to say yes to the sovereignty of God. May the Lord help us to learn from the life of Joseph as we live out our lives in faith and repentance and ask God for the grace to say no to despair and say yes to the sovereignty of God. Press on in the Lord.